Leaving behind the legacy of manufacturing powerhouse, Korea has recently gathered a lot of worldwide attention for its food, TV dramas, and pop music. And now they're saying next wave is coming. That is fashion. And that's what we want to talk about right here in this program, Upfront.
Since the late 1990s, Hallyu, or the Korean wave, has gained a lot of popularity along with its diversified contents, including Korean dramas and K-pop. From cosmetics that Korean wave stars use to clothes and food that they wear and eat. Aside from such a growing popularity of Korean wave stars, global society has also shown a great interest in Korean traditions, culture, and even lifestyles. And the era of Korean Wave 3.0 has finally arrived. What would be the most popular Korean Wave content? A survey was carried out targeting 6,500 foreigners in 14 overseas countries. One of the interesting points of the research is the rise of fashion and beauty as new Korean Wave contents, following Korean food and K-pop. Korean fashion, which has been so-called K-fashion, has contributed to developing the domestic fashion industry by developing unique designs and boosting the production and exports of clothing. For example, Dongdaemun Fashion Town's special tourist zone has a daily floating population of 1.5 million and has average daily gross sales of $50 million. By combining tourism and fashion as a new rising content, it has attracted a lot of foreign visitors. Also, a lot of Korean fashion brands have successfully advanced into the overseas markets, and Korean designers have garnered a lot of attention on global stages, including fashion weeks in New York, London, and Paris. K-fashion has risen as one of the leading contents of the Korean wave, and it has also taken a contributing role in improving the domestic economy. Upfront discusses more about the global competitiveness of K-fashion, as well as its potential in the near future.
For today's discussion, we have a fabulous lineup of the guests joining us in the studio. First, starting with Professor Seo Sang-eun. She is teaching clothing and textile classes at the Sangmyeong University. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
She is an educator and a former practitioner at the global brands. And we have also a practitioner on the front lines, Mr. Seo Byung-moon, who has become renowned for his activities introducing Korea's fashion worldwide. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we have another international watcher and practitioner as well as an educator. She's Sarah Kate Wassenbeck, professor at Gukje Fashion Design Occupational Training College. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm very much looking forward to today's discussion. For having internationally recognized interesting discussion here, what we have to do is have the background here overall. And you have been pretty much involved on the front lines in terms of watching the fashion trends and how fashion industry has been doing overall. Mr. Kim, Mr. Seo, could you tell us first of all overall your observation of how popular Korean fashion is these days?
I think the Korean fashion is doing very well. I often go to the Milan Fashion Week or the Paris Fashion Week to show my collection. Every time I go there, I could see how popular Korean fashion is. And I had some experience during my exhibition at there. So the buyer that came to our exhibition, they already knew we are doing the wholesale business, so they can't buy the sample. Or they even asked me to, please, sell your sample. I really like that's the thing. So, I could see, how popular the K-fashion is for now. So.
Professor Wassenbeck, from your perspective as an international watcher, as well as watching Korean fashion industry from outside and also from inside, the popularity, the same question to you. What have you been seeing?
It's definitely rising. I focus more on Southeast Asia, and I definitely see like a much interest in Korean fashion due to Hallyu, of course, and following celebrity marketing and music and such. And I think it's the next thing that is like aspirational about Korean lifestyle.
So indeed, this is a hot topic to talk about in our program for sure, right? Professor Seo, how do we define K-fashion? I'm sure different people have different definitions, and but in terms of style or kind of like characterization of it, how should our viewers who are joining from all around the world watching this program understand the word K-fashion? When they hear K-fashion, what is that thing they should think about, visualize?
Yeah, K-fashion actually is created by terminology, K from Korea, and fashion. It's combined word, but K-fashion actually started as a subculture of Korean wave, such as K-pop and dramas. But now it's getting so much attention from globally, independently. And I think K-fashion is already permitted to through the people who knows Korean culture very well. And in the narrow meaning, K-fashion called actually a distinctive style from Korean woman. But recently it can be used as a broad meaning, like throughout whole Korean fashion industry, like K-fashion project or K-fashion show, like that.
Sounds good. And this is such an important question here. So Professor Wasubek, come in and join us once again. Defining K-fashion. When we talk about that terminology, what's something that those experts actually visualize? How is it different from fashion from other countries?
I think K-fashion is incredibly fast with trends. It is very well at curating their own look. And also when we look at the actual cutting, it's very clean pattern cutting. It's very colorful. It focuses on the daily wear. And so it's very easy. It's quite conservative. So it's very easy for other cultures to wear that clothing. Conservative in the sense of like showing skin. K-fashion is not about bodycon dresses and red carpet looks. It's about that daily wear that everybody can aspire to wear.
Interesting idea. Mr. So, would you agree with the idea of K-fashion being kind of rather conservative, relatively speaking?
For me, I think K-fashion is about diversity.
Diversity,
yeah.
okay.
So it has a various style with many different designers. So I got many buyers to talk about K-fashion, and they said they could see very various style on K-fashion. So they like that diversity. So this is new for them.
Diversity means creativity as well. So
Yeah.
always surprising things coming up in many ways, right?
Right.
In that sense. On the front lines, like in the so-called battlefield, if you will, how much of impact do you see from the Korean dramas? Do people actually
for
ask for this
K-fashion.
stuff that they've seen in dramas and so on? We're talking about the influence of the Korea wave, the first wave of Korea pop culture, dramas, and how it's having impact on the fashion.
In my opinion, there are two different aspects about the K-pop or K-drama relating to the K-fashion. In Asian culture, it has a very, very good influence about the K-pop. They really like the K-pop, and they also love the clothes the K-pop star wearing. So it has relative to the K-fashion each other. So. But for the other country, like European and the country, they don't really know about K-pop. So
you go there with the fashion, and then people like it or not, with or without their thoughts about Korean drama.
Sure. I usually work with many K-pop artists. They wear my clothes. So I brought the picture to the buyers from European country, but they said, "Oh, this is good," but I don't know who they are. So that's it. So, but for the China or the Asian country, they really love the picture. So they just want to buy the clothes they are wearing. So it works for the Asian culture, but I'm not sure if it works for the Western country or not. Yeah.
Professor Seo, you're teaching a lot of students here in Korea these days, and fashion industry, I want to look at it as a one sector of an economy there. And in Korean wave, we had the dramas, music, and food, and why is fashion so important in the minds of many people? This is a very general question, but you know, among Koreans, there are other things that are uniquely Korean, right? Culture, literature, and all different things. Why do you think fashion is such an important thing in human life? This is a very general question here, but can you tell us your idea about why fashion is important?
Fashion is most visual thing. So I think foreign people, including our countries, they really they are not just following K-stars. They want to experience cultural things like fashion. So fashion can give the direct experience to consumers.
So it's their way of trying to experience Korean experience as a whole, and fashion offers a good vehicle or a channel through which you can get to know Korea in a way. I think that's a wonderful point. Mr. Seo, the overall industry or system of Korean fashion industry here, how would you describe it? Professor Watson-Beck has mentioned the speed and creativity, all these things, but how does it work usually? I do understand fashion has planning or design side and the production and marketing and so on. Do we have a full set functioning better than other countries, or do we have some more ways to go? How would you describe overall system of fashion industry?
It depends on category of brand you are doing. If you are doing the very commercial brand, we have a very good system in South Korea. The production and the quality and price is also good. But if you are doing very high-end fashion label, it's different because we need more the skill and we need more the material to show our creativity. But there is a limit of material or the skill in South Korea because the fashion market in South Korea is very small. So the
small meaning in comparison with China, perhaps? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
But we do have actually considerable number of population still. But would you still say Korean fashion industry is small in size?
Yeah. Okay. Comparing to other countries. I mean, the market in China, they have lots of population. So there are many people to buy clothes. And also the European market, they are very open to new design.
I see.
Yeah, new style. They spend money for the clothes and style. But Korea people they are very
price conscious?
Yeah, conservative.
Okay.
Sensitive to try new style. So that's a difference.
So that's a new barrier we have to overcome, you know, to get to the higher level.
We have to find a way.
I totally agree. Yeah.
And anything to add? Because I was going to ask you, Professor Watson-Beck, about the speed of it. Though, however, you know, they said speedy aspect of Korean fashion is what makes Korean fashion industry different and better than others.
Right.
What do you think that? What do you think it is that makes that possible? Korea's speed.
I think Korea has always been very hungry for trends and hungry for economic growth, and also the seasons are kind of a great kind of example of that. With very defined seasons, we have very defined trends. You know, makeup changes from you know, moisturizing in the winter to cooling in the summer, and so I think the fashion trend follows that. Look at the food as well; it follows that. So that's definitely a plus for the Korean market. Unfortunately, it also makes for a fickle consumer because you're always following the trend. You want what's next, and you might not want to spend that much money on that trend because you know that 2 days later it might not be trendy. And that's where I think I agree with you. We have an issue with our luxury market. We need more faith and investment in our own designers to buy into something that might be a bit more expensive than a spa brand, SPA brand.
Right.
Yeah.
So would you say Korean consumers are more willing to give up a little bit outdated fashion styles and move on to new ones, more willing to do so than perhaps other consumers in other countries?
Sure, yeah. They're very conscious of what the trend is of the moment. I think more than any other country I've ever seen.
I see. Professor, so the creativity and diversity of Korean fashion industry, how do we explain that? Because for a long time, Korea has been known, you know, we have complained for a long time that Korea lacks creativity and we are conservative and all that kind of stuff. All of a sudden, this diversity and creativity that we see in Korean fashion, how do we explain to overseas audience?
I think recently the global design recently working on globally, they don't use like Hangul or Hanbok, like traditional content directly. Never. They use very indirectly right now, and then with the modern sensibility to be wearable and trendy. But I think the important thing is the identity of Korean tradition and heritage should be inside it.
Okay.
So
okay.
it can be shown as different modern in modern fashion way.
So modernity combined with tradition and all that creates a bigger pool of resources in a foundation, as a foundation of creativity, I suppose. But Mr. So, on in this actual the practicing arenas, for instance, like we had last March, we had a Seoul Fashion Week, for instance. How do you explain when they say Korean fashion industry seems to have really greater potential for creativity and diversity? How do you explain the root of it, adding on to Professor Seh's words?
Yeah, I think the Korean fashion has a very special idea about structure of the garment because we have a different idea how to structure the garment. Because we wear the hanbok, but we are very familiar with the Asian costumes. It has a different structure. So we can use that idea to develop the design into the current fashion style. So it's a unique idea.
That's very interesting because a lot of people, I heard a lot of people saying that actually hanbok tradition has created rigidity and the traditional binding in a way, the way we are supposed to wear our things. But you're saying actually it has given us different ideas about using garments.
we can use that method to the
apply
design,
to the modern
apply
kind of
that
clothing.
method into our design to develop our collection of the garment.
Interesting idea.
Yes.
Professor Watson-Beck, this is such an important question, so we have to ask you as well. The foundation for Korean creativity and diversity that we all of a sudden seems to be seeing here, how do we explain that to the international audience?
I think Koreans are amazing curators. They're very good at, appropriating what they like and cooking it into something that will work for their society and what will wear well for them. And so I think we have, a lot of discussion about not being creative or whatever, but I think it's come to a point where a lot of our designers are blossoming. They are studying abroad. They're taking from Korean traditional culture. They're mixing all of this stuff, and so it's creating something totally new. And the curation as well. They're very good at branding and making something very clean and available to many people.
And do you see something special and different among young designers like Mr. Seh and others that are coming up, as a new generation?
Absolutely, yeah. They're hungry for the economic move to Asia.
So you're saying the Korean fashion designers seem to be more competitive and going for competition and getting ahead of trend more so?
Well, maybe not competitive, but working hard to kind of fulfill that passion. They have a lot of passion for design.
Hardworking culture.
Yeah, just generally, Korea is very hardworking culture, as we know, yes.
Right.
And it has an impact on the Korean fashion industry as well.
Yeah.
Interesting cultural explanation. Professor, what seems to be new these days when we talk about Korean fashion is street fashion. Korean media, many different newspapers and the TVs have dealt with this new topic called the street fashion. The street fashion is, by the way, it's a fashion that's being enjoyed by common people. Is that how I understand it? Can you explain what's happening with the street fashion in Korea?
Yeah, actually, street fashion started as a subculture actually as well from the middle class in United States at the time of 1940s.
Okay.
But since that time, and then by every 10 years, we have subcultures combined, associated with a subculture, and K-pop and K-drama associate with K subculture, and it became a street fashion because people who really follow the K-pop stars, they can be shown through the internet social network, and they want to visit the K place, and they want to follow K fashion and beauty, and it can be on the streets. So and they want to also have experience of that.
That's what's happening right at this point. I remember growing up in Korea during the 70s and 80s. We used to watch a lot of Japanese magazines and fashionable Japanese common people walking on the street and taken in pictures and stuff like that. And that's what what's happening in Korean street
Yeah.
and Korean common citizens, right, these days. Again, would you agree that this is all a result of the Korea wave, Korea pop culture, global attention to it?
Yeah, in part. I mean, you know, street fashion comes from just general youth history. It's always about the youth subculture. What do they have angst against economically or politically? What do they have joy about? We see the 1960s youthquake, 70s glam rock,
Right.
80s club culture. And so right now, Korea has this bubbling of, you know, music and art and so on. So of course, youth have something to show for it. Also, you know, as I was saying before, Korea doesn't have necessarily a gala culture of high dressing.
Ah, I see.
Nobody's walking around in red carpet outfits. Maybe say, for example, like France, you have very high dressing or wedding dressing.
I see, right,
When you
right.
go to a wedding in Korea, you wear quite daily look. So Korea's street fashion is narrowed to this daily wear, where you can focus all of your attention to making daily wear look amazing, rather than you know, having multiple evening wear and
Right.
this. You know.
Right. But we have an interview here about street fashion here. The interviewee is Professor Michael Hurst, the sociologist at Korea University. And let's take a listen what he has to say about Korea's street fashion, and then we'll continue on discussing Korea's fashion here. We'll be right back.
Well, I think that the reason the street fashion specifically has stolen the show, as it were, is because this shows, I think, street fashion is able to display the strength of real Korean culture, not something that, that the high fashion press or the people, the elites want to display for people to see. They don't want to see the fake culture, they want to see the real culture. And I think that's one thing that, for example, in K-food, the powers that be always wanted to show, Chosun era, high elite kind of food. But no one overseas is interested in that. They're interested in street stalls. They're interested in things the government doesn't necessarily want people to see. The same thing is true, I think, in fashion. High fashion people want people to see runway shows. But I think what people really, really want to see is what's going on in the street, the real stuff. I think that's what the foreign fashion press has come to see. Well, the reason I've been taking pictures of Korean street fashion since about 2006 is the fact that you can really read Korean culture through clothing. And you can read culture through clothing in any social context, but I think there's a lot of social changes going on in Korea very, very quickly. People always talk about compressed development and things like that. But in any case, the social changes, for example, changes in the gender status of women in society, are able to be kind of tracked through clothing. Yeah, one of the things I think that you can see through fashion, I've been doing this since 2006. In 2007, I still remember seeing in Shincheon, for example, a woman with her belly exposed and her belly button was pierced. And I still remember her walking down the street very confidently and proudly, and girls next to her were, "Oh my God, do you see what she's wearing?" And they were staring and pointing at her. And the very next summer, that was the trend. If you weren't doing that, you weren't cool. So to me, I think that's how quickly and easily things can change for women here and in society.
As you have implied previously, China is a big factor in Korean industry, fashion industry here. Can you share with us overall picture about what's happening, what China's role is in defining Korean fashion industry, why it's important, what kind of things are happening overall?
I often go to the Shanghai Fashion Week, and then what I can see is that China market is very big, and the local buyer in China, they are very interested in new brand, and they really buy the clothes from the new designer. Yeah, it's it's totally different situation what's happening in South Korea.
New brand and new designer means like in
Young
Korea,
designers.
right? In Korea or some other countries, they may go back to the established traditional big name brands.
Yeah.
But in China, you're saying it's different.
Yeah, it has been changed.
Uh-huh.
No, yeah, actually, previously the China people they buy name.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
They,
that's
they
what I
don't
was-
buy the
Yeah.
new brand, but it has been changed.
When did that change? Because I remember hearing that until very recently. In your own observation,
Yeah.
when did that change happen and why?
I don't really know exactly when they changed it, but I could see, yeah, they are very interested in new designer, especially the Korean designer, because as the K-pop, K-drama is making hit in China.
Looking for new names, new ideas, new brains in a way in this kind of creative industry actually is the foundation for its future growth, right?
Yeah,
in that sense,
absolutely.
China has a really bright future as a future market, I suppose, in that sense. But other than China, where else are we looking at in terms of new important markets where K-fashion is catching on, Professor Wassenbeck?
I believe Southeast Asia definitely has a huge market for growth.
Entire Southeast Asia?
Yeah,
Okay.
because Hallyu is doing really well in Southeast Asia. They're interested in K-fashion, and so I think that's probably one of our next markets, definitely for Korean fashion.
We've been so far from the beginning to this point, we've been talking about what is happening right at this point and how Korean fashion, K-fashion is different worldwide and so on in comparison with other countries. But now let's try to look ahead here. Especially Mr. So, as someone who's a well-known practitioner on the front lines, strengthening the brand, Korea's brands and so on, while we're encouraging new designers and so on. What is happening in terms of the overall movement in the industry these days? Because a lot of people have been saying, well, this popularity for Korean fashion could be something short-lived one, and in order to seek sustainability of K-wave or Korea K-fashion in the longer run, we really have to strengthen the existing or upcoming brands. What kind of things are happening at this point, and are we successful in that sense?
I think the K-pop needs the style, and K-fashion needs the PR. So I think it makes a good synergy to promote brand and promote the K-pop style. So K-pop star just choose the style they wanna wear for their performance, and then the K-fashion, yeah, use their picture or their name, yeah, to promote their brand. So it's a nice collaboration. So I think it works. Yeah, when I was at Shanghai Fashion Week,
Yes.
I was showing my collection, and then I just showed the picture for the collaboration with the K-pop artists, and then the buyers they really wanna buy that clothes. So I could see it works. Yeah.
So we have to still rely on this big name stars in the entertainment industry and so on, and try to seek the synergy effect
Yeah,
with them.
sure,
Okay,
sure.
that's
Yeah.
one of the brand establishment strategy for Koreans.
Yes.
Okay, okay. That will have to continue on for some time here. Professor Wassenbeck, as a watcher of Korean fashion industry, the young up and coming new talents
Yeah.
as the designers, what do you see? Do you actually see many names? Well, of course, we have Mr. Seo Byung-moon, who is a representative case of this new talents and so on.
Right.
What do you see overall in terms of upcoming new talents
In
Korean fashion industry?
what do you mean, like as far as
New designers and
new
so
designers?
on. Do we have
Yeah.
continuous supply of
Oh,
new
yeah.
brains and so on that Professor Seo is teaching, like in her schools and so on? What's the supply side picture that you see landscape?
I see a lot of new talent coming out of Korea, and I really, have a lot of faith in them to do something amazing. But
And you're actually teaching many
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
students
yeah.
as well, right?
Right.
What do you see in them?
a lot of passion, a lot of drive. They want to be this next designer. But in the sense of maintaining the K brand, I would love to see more interaction with Korean society by supporting our young designers. We need to, in a way, invest in a piece from a young designer. and less about maybe a high European brand or whatever. They've had years and years, 100 years to develop this brand.
Right.
It's time to actually invest in young designer, which
Right.
invests in your culture economy, invest in your own economy.
Right, right.
So, I have a lot of faith, and then hopefully we can also kind of gather together and make an initiative to actually buy local, which helps us, and that goes for every culture,
That's a very important point indeed, Professor Seo, isn't it? In a way, try to help the young designers.
Right.
Korean buyers will have to buy their stuff, right? Basically, what can be done? Some people say maybe government should spend more. I think it's Korean mind, right? Everything, all the problems we have every time we say Korean government should do more. But going beyond that, maybe better cooperation with the corporate world, or is there a thing we can do in terms of raising awareness among the common Korean consumers to encourage them to buy more of the stuff? What can we do to help the students in your teaching here?
But unfortunately, we need more support from system by government actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tell us what
Because
kind of
like common
support?
people can buy clothes, but it's really hard to increase global the economy. What we to the extent what you want.
Right.
So I think we have to keep our identity, keep working on our identity, and then the government should support incubating young designers with the creative space with and equipment for the production as well as marketing.
Professor Wassenbeck, from your perspective, you have raised the important issue of having to help young talents more.
Yeah.
What are some additional ideas to help them in your own view? Government support, public support, and then maybe awareness campaign for the consumers and so on. How would you like to see your students that you are teaching be further helped down the road?
Helped by an outside party or help themselves?
Oh, both of them.
Both?
Yeah. Please.
I think we have social media right now, and social media is such a huge power. And I think really taking advantage of social media as a DIY aspect of being a designer. And yes, I'm a creative, I'm designing, but yes, I also have to focus on marketing, but I want to do it globally, efficiently, cheaply. Social media is a very good way, and using English tags for SEO. I think that's really important. Unfortunately, right now, I find a lot of designers have websites, but they're limited in the text that they provide, which means that they don't pop up high on global SEO like Google.
Right.
And also, they need some
Who can provide such the support to help them to have their own stuff popping up on the higher level? Is it corporate involvement that's needed in Korea?
It could be, or a good web designer.
Web design, okay.
Just very simple. And also, I have a lot of emails and messages from abroad of young people who really want to buy Korean design, but they don't know how to access it.
I see.
So having, just even a personal website that sells abroad, it's work. It's logistically it's work. But young designers can sell abroad once they start promoting individually.
Then are you saying from the IT side as well, the way we run our websites and so on, we need more help from the IT professionals to help the fashion industry perhaps?
Sure. I think Korea especially is very Korean oriented when it comes to the internet. So bloggers blog in Naver, and it's in Hangul, which doesn't allow for global search. So I think that's really important to be able to open yourself in IT to be searched and be found.
That's critical point that we have to share. I guess all businesses like that. If you want to be an entrepreneur and startup, it's always a tough road ahead. But much more so in fashion industry because of the competition and so on, right? Mr. Seo, as a good example of success here.
Still going on.
Still going on. Yeah, the life is continuation of struggle for sure. I know what you're talking about. But what kind of vehicles are available? The channels like what do you call it? The fashion shows and fashion programs. What kind of opportunities are available for young entrepreneurs? Do we have a lot of shows, programs going on?
Yeah. There are so many ways to do your own brand. Yeah, it doesn't need to be very nice fashion show. It doesn't need to be overseas. So we just need the place, where we can show our collection. Yeah, that can be the start.
I see.
Yeah, if I don't have enough money, just start at less money. Yeah, just spend just a little money to make one garment, and show that to people. If there is one people who want to buy, yeah, you can sell that.
Who are the entities that can provide this kind of opportunity, place, and programs? Is it the local government, central government, or is it corporations? And what's happening? I know, for one example, city of Seoul has been quite active and all that.
Sure.
So what are you talking about? The local governments and the governments?
There are many organizations. One is the Seoul Fashion Council, and also Seoul Design Foundation, and also Korea Creative Content. Yeah, there are quite many organizations. So, yeah, maybe for the new designer or emerging designer, they just find a way, yeah, how to be supported by organization. Or if there is no way to be supported, just start at less cost. Yeah.
Well, what about those programs? Sorry for continuing to asking you, and perhaps other people can join in, or other guests can join in. But the programs that have that offers access to global markets and so on, do we have lots of them happening? For instance, like what is this fashion code 2016 that's happening in September and so on?
Yes,
Are these those kind of programs?
Yes, I did that, the fashion code, last season. Yeah, fashion code is the kind of trade show. Yeah, just invite the many brands who has their own concept and identity, and they also invite the overseas buyer and local buyers and local press, overseas press, and they show the each brand's collection to the buyer and press. Yeah, it's.
What about the Concept Korea, the program that's happening during the time of New York Fashion Week? Is it kind of similar as well?
Yeah, it's the similar support, but they give the opportunity to have the learning show at New York or the other European the market. Yeah. That's a good opportunity to show our collection to global market.
So these are the programs where young entrepreneurs, designers can seek their exposure to the global market here as well. Okay. We actually have an interesting interview with these young entrepreneurs and fashion designers who are aspiring to become introducers of global brands here. And so let's take a look at this interview, and we'll continue on with our discussion.
The Dongdaemun Fashion Town was designated as special tourist zone by the government. There are about 30,000 stores which have a one-stop system, from planning and producing to selling. This wholesale and retail shopping district opens 24 hours a day and has developed as a world-class fashion cluster where over 2.5 million foreign tourists visit each year. An event was recently held in here, a hub of Korea's fashion industry. It has given the visitors chances to meet the new designers who are expected to play a leading role in developing the fashion industry as one of the rising Korean wave contents.
기대 많이 안 하고 왔었는데 이렇게 신진 디자이너들 옷 보니까 특이하면서도 개성도 있고, 그리고 가격도 무엇보다 소비자 입장에서는 저렴하고, 그래서 많이 쇼핑하고 갈 수 있을 것 같아서 너무 좋았어요.
Fostering new designers with their own sense of creativity is an essential factor when it comes to holding a dominant position in the global fashion industry.
사실 예전과 다르게 지금 트렌드를 잘 반영하고 있는 디자인을 지금 현재 디자이너들이 잘 뽑아내는 것이 사실 가장 큰 이유 같고요.
디자이너들이 이제 개별적으로 활동할 수 있는 토대가 만들어졌기 때문에 그런 디자이너들이 주목을 받을 수 있고, 또 자신이 원하는 독창적인 디자인을 해나가서 그런 디자인들이 주목을 받고 있는 게 더 큰 이유라고 생각을 합니다.
Support for creative works debut at Fashion Week, strengthen marketing and mentoring services. Fostering new designers by boosting so-called fashion incubating system can contribute a lot to the bright future of the Korean fashion industry within the global fashion field.
K 패션 브랜드라는 브랜드로만 남는 것이 아니라 그냥 해외에서도 이 브랜드가 어느 나라 건지는 모르지만 해외의 모든 사람들이, 그리고 어떤 고객들이 나를 특별히 돋보이게 해주는 디자인이구나, 그런 브랜드이구나로 안젠을 기억해줬으면 정말 좋겠고요.
앞으로도 분리다를 많이 아실 수 있도록
좋은 미술 작품을 창작하려고 하고 있습니다.
다른 디자이너들과 협업을 함으로써 이런 좀 제도적인 부분들이나 어려운 부분들을 함께 헤쳐나가는 저희 브랜드가 되도록 하겠습니다.
Well, that was an interesting interview here. And to continue our discussion, the marketing, we've been talking about the need for strengthen the marketing in order to make the K fashion more sustainable in the future, right?
Yeah.
As someone who's teaching fashion and design and the industry as a whole, what is the way for Korea to go? We understand, for instance, the Vogue International editor recently, her name is Suzy Menkes. She mentioned that Korea needs more efforts for the marketing side to make the overall this fashionable industry, make it sustainable. What are the additional efforts that we need here to further strengthen Korea's marketing?
I think we need to develop the innovative business model using digital paradigm, because the social media is huge kind of media for global people can access, and then everybody can be a designer as a day. Actually, they can show their work, and then they can present their kind of identity to everybody globally. So, but I think systematically the government should support about that kind of marketing.
Professor likes government intervention, but I see what you mean exactly, though. Mr. So, about the SNS role and the technology's role in fashion industry, I would assume and guess that people like you who are really focused on creativity in fashion and so on may not know as much about the technological advancement that's being achieved, right? In that sense, do you see Korea's IT industry and technology entrepreneurs, small players to join, the need for them to join further in fashion industry to make the fashion products better known in the world market?
Yeah, sure. I think it has a good synergy, but it doesn't need to be too technology.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, just a simple communication tool. Yeah, it should be enough. Yeah, we just post what you are doing, and people just look at what you're doing, and people start to just get interested in what you're doing. We just carry on, yeah, just posting and showing of who I am, yeah, what you are doing. And,
is this effort usually carried out usually based on individual internet platforms, or do we have other kind of internet platforms where different designers come together and then reach out to the world? How does it happen? Is it usually individual blogs and individual SNS platforms, or?
I just use the Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, just easy. Yeah, everybody can access. Yeah, it's very open. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because of the accessibility, we don't need separate internet marketplaces. You're saying?
I mean, social media in the sense of Instagram as
is
well.
a
It's so
marketplace,
powerful.
right?
Yeah. I think Korean designers can really use that to show themselves, but also, collaborating with bloggers, international bloggers, and style icons will be a huge way to get themselves noticed. But when you invest, because you do have to pay for bloggers to post about you, you need to make sure that your clothing is purchasable. So that's a kind of difficult situation where bloggers are very happy to wear Korean design, but if you're spending that effort, you got to have a way for the global market to buy your goods. So that's why I was saying make a website, sell, and be able to be shipped abroad. And that's why we see fast fashion shopping malls in Korea do really well. I mean, obviously they're cheap, but globally as well.
Globally as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I mention? I don't know if I can mention names, but there's very very affordable brands, fast fashion Dongdaemun production that's doing really well abroad because they are accessible.
I see.
Obviously, the price is much lower, but it's just that accessibility, I think. Yeah.
And in terms of talking about international accessibility, do we need Chinese language for making them further available for Chinese buyers as well, or are we talking about English use in those kind of?
I think on the global scale, we start with English and Chinese. I think Chinese also, you have to be concerned about them even being able to search for certain things
There are
because their
limitations.
internet is limited.
Yeah.
So starting with English, because English, we're talking about European and American market, a major international market, but also from there, you know, you have the rest of the world. So keep going.
I see. Professor, so let's look at the bigger picture here once again. We dealt with the question about the industry as a whole, but since we are getting closer to the end of the program, we have to revisit the overall picture. But the ecosystem of Korean fashion industry as a whole, what are we looking at? What are some of the points that we need to further develop and strengthen to make this huge ecosystem of designing, planning, manufacturing and retailing, marketing together? What are some of the points that we need to pay attention and improve?
For the global fashion business, the vertically integrated system is really important from design to the distribution actually. So, and then also designer needs ecosystem to be born and growing continuously. So, maybe the one of global trading company like SEA, Hansol, and they are really huge manufacturer of currency of design for USA market, but they have vertically integrated system only. But not many companies has that kind of huge system. So say again, like government should involve to the corporate kind of position, and they can grow like Korean economy as a fashion industry.
Professor Wassenbeck, from your perspective, is vertical integration a trend that will be in place for a long time? I mean, when Professor Seo was talking about vertical integration of Korean companies, like manufacturing and retailing overseas, I'm thinking about some of the Japanese brands that have been doing well in Korean markets, selling their clothes, on their own. Is this a trend that will be in place for a long time? If it is, in that case, it's a challenge for entrepreneurs. And so on. So what do you see in terms of trends?
Sure. I mean, that's always going to be the case. Big companies will always have brands that will work. But again, like I said, I definitely feel like we need to focus more on young designers, and we need to make an effort on developing the K brand internally, because when people from the outside see Korea, it will show, not just the fact that we buy international brands, for example. So one thing that I've noticed, especially as I know more about Southeast Asia, is like, for example, in Thailand, in Bangkok, department stores will devote an entire floor to their local designers as an initiative to get people into local brands. And I think there needs to be more of that kind of grassroots effort here in Korea to have more K brands in the retail sphere. Just for everyone to buy.
For that great idea, Mr. Seo Byung-mun, for example, in dedicating entire floor for entrepreneurial individual designers, that is not really happening in Korean department stores, right?
Yeah. It doesn't.
But we do have places like Dongdaemun and other different kinds of retail spaces where that's happening, right?
Yes.
Okay. And do you see sort of like a merging of this kind of well-established department store setting of retailing and then Dongdaemun style retailing kind of like merging together, or are they going to go separate ways continuously?
Actually, in Korean fashion market, they do consignment sales. They don't buy the clothes from the designers. They just rent the place and
for big brand names.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the problem, I think.
So in a given system, what happens is you will have to become well-established, better known brand name in order to join those department store floors, right? As it is. So for a while, I guess Korea will have some limitation in terms of realizing.
Yeah, it's an effort we have to make, you know? Because right now you're talking about Dongdaemun, these special zoning areas are focused for tourism, not necessarily the national market. So how do we blend the two together.
Your point throughout the program is very clear. The Korean consumers should pay more attention to Korean
absolutely,
talents, right?
yeah.
We got to find ways to do that.
It starts, at home, always.
Right.
And
Indeed.
then we are noticed from the outside.
Right.
And I think it's the same when we talk about K-culture in general.
Yeah.
In the 1980s, isn't it the case that American Top 40 music was limited in Korea?
It was.
And then 90s K-pop blossomed.
Right.
And I'm not saying, block the outside, but just know when we're buying SPA brands or fast fashion brands, we're not investing in ourselves. We're investing in some greater company on the outside. And so this is time to really make an effort to consciously, okay, if I buy one item that I'll really wear and love, maybe it should be a Korean designer.
That's why we need to see the Dongdaemun style of fashion community and industrial community to expand further and further around the city as well as around the country and so on, right?
Yeah.
So, and talking about that, since we have, and we are getting closer to the end of our program, but still, for our viewers who are watching us from overseas, Dongdaemun, once again, we cannot ignore the fact that it's a very hot place attracting lots of foreigners as a whole.
Right.
So from international perspective, are there certain things that needs to be further done in order to encourage what we already have in our hand, even though we need further improvement and further spreading of it? From international perspective, what do you see in terms of possible improvement of this kind of Dongdaemun style complex that offers both design, fashion, and then tourism? What do you see?
Goodness, international marketing, but Dongdaemun's doing really well right now.
Okay.
If you notice. I think it's doing super well. I do like what is happening. There's an initiative of bringing in Korean young designers on first level of the certain department stores in Dongdaemun, and I think that's a great step towards developing Korean national brands or Korean young designers. So continuing that and not just focusing on that fast and cheap, which is great.
Right.
But you have to balance the market.
We have to move up the scale as a whole. Right?
And the consumer can handle. They're buying, designer from abroad. We can invest in our designer.
Right, Professor So, as perhaps our final point, what do you want to see in terms of further kind of creating greater synergy effect for the K fashion? Taking advantage of tourism and the K-wave and so on. What do you want to see happen around the world for the future of K fashion?
K-fashion will be growing a lot. And then I think starting from actually K-pop and K-drama, now K-fashion is getting attention. And also K-fashion can be extended to K-place, which is tourism market, and also K-entertainment finally. So it can be huge kind of a collaborated, what I have to
cultural
say.
space, I suppose.
Right, cultural fair sometimes. So also Dongdaemun already working on K culture fair this year, maybe coming October, relate to fashion, tourism, and with K-wave. So that's what
coming fall, we will get to see more exciting things happening around the region.
It can be working on.
Exactly. Mr. So Byung-moon, as your final words, what do you want to see happening in this exciting industry, and any plans for your own for the future to help further growth of the K-fashion industry?
Yeah, for me, as a Korean fashion designer, I just want to expand my label to more international market. So I'm planning to have a non-name show in European market to show my collection to more global audience to increase my brand recognition.
So a lot of things to do ahead.
Yeah, there will be many things to do. Yeah.
Sounds exciting. Sounds exciting. We have to wrap up our program here, but we have had a very interesting discussion, as you have seen, our audience, and we want to thank you big time, as well as we want to thank all of our guests for sharing wonderful ideas and views today. And once again, thanking our viewers who have joined from all over around the world for our discussion of this kind of interesting issues. And next time when we discuss this kind of another exciting topic, you have to join us once again. And until then, this has been Kim Byung-ju. Goodbye.